можем официально начинать.
So I think
Те,
we
кто успел
can
подойти сегодня к 9 часам,
call it an official
большинство, наверное, уже здесь.
start
Я
of the
очень рад
conference.
приветствовать собравшихся
I'm
в этом
happy
зале.
to join
К сожалению, второй
those who
год
are here in
история
the room.
практически повторяется.
Now, it's a
С нашего
déjà vu
мероприятия мы еле-еле успеваем
for a
до
second year.
закрытия Москвы. Ровно то
We
же самое было и в прошлый раз.
are lucky.
И,
The
конечно,
same
это
thing
накладывает
happened
свой
a
отпечаток и
year
может
ago.
положить на
We
происходящее
just
сегодня здесь.
make it on
Мы
time
имеем на
before
сегодняшнее
Moscow
утро около
goes
300
into lockdown.
подтвержденных
We have more than 300 registrations
гостям, которые хотели
for
бы
the guests
прийти
who
в отель,
wanted
но
to
сколько
come to the
из них
hotel,
дойдет,
but
является
I don't
большой
really know how
загадкой.
many of them
Ту
will
тенденцию,
make
которую мы
it to
видели
the
в
hotel.
последние дни,
The trend we've seen in
все-таки
the
люди
past
активно переключались с
days
офлайна на онлайн, поэтому сколько
demonstrates
сегодня
that
будет людей,
people
наверное, это главная загадка.
switched
Но это
from
можно понять, все-таки меры
from offline to
предосторожности,
online.
наверное, это главное.
Well, again,
Мы не
safety
хотим
precautions are
вносить
key.
никакого
We don't
урона
want
эпидемиологической
to
ситуации, поэтому
disrupt
прошу
the
к
safety and
этому
health of the people.
отнестись
So
внимательно. Надеюсь,
please,
что те, кто присутствует
let's take care of
здесь,
each
в
other.
основном
I hope
привиты,
that most of
переболели,
you are either vaccinated
маски и
or
санитайзеры в соответствии
have
с
gone through
всеми
COVID-19, you
нормами
used masks
безопасности.
and
Поэтому сегодня у нас огромный
sanitizers,
зал, но
stick to
специально
social
рассчитан на то,
distancing
чтобы
rules.
можно было
We
соблюдать дистанцию. Ну и спасибо
hired
всем, кто
we
проявил смелость
leased
и
out a
пришел
huge room
пообщаться с коллегами.
today so that there is
Думаю,
enough
что такая
space for all of you, and
снова у нас
we
предоставится
can
не скоро.
also
Сезон
comply
конференций
with
заканчивается.
safe distancing rules.
Вот, настает такая
And the season of
суровая
conferences
зимняя
will be over very
пора.
soon, and
Вот,
we'll be in
в
for a
Москве.
winter time,
И,
lockdown
будем
winter
надеяться,
time in
что
Moscow, and let's
нам не
hope that
придется выдерживать локдаун достаточно долго.
the lockdown will not
Вот,
last long.
И
Let's
как бы
cross our
мы
fingers,
сможем
keep our fingers crossed.
вернуться к
And
нормальной
we will
жизни.
be
Я
able
думаю,
to
что
go
примерно
back
те же вещи
to
говорили сегодня
normal.
назад. Так
Well,
что,
actually, we
в общем,
said the same thing,
привыкаем к
exactly
новой
the same thing a year ago.
Поэтому,
So,
как бы сегодня в полной мере предлагаю
getting
воспользоваться
to
тем,
terms
что мы
with the new
предлагаем. У нас
reality.
сегодня 10 панелей.
So we have 10 panels today. I hope you enjoy all of them.
Мы выстроили программу как бы с некоторой внутренней логикой.
And
Начнем
we believe that there's some
мы с
rationale, some
sell-side,
logic
с
in our
банков,
program. We'll start with sell side,
продолжим
with
более
banks,
детальным обсуждением
and then
трендов,
we'll
которые
move
происходят
to
на рынке в алгоритмической
algo
торговле.
trends.
Мы обсудим
We will
дальше
discuss
ситуацию
further on
с
what's happening
какие правила определяют развитие рынка,
on
что
the rules in the
глобально
market,
произошло в мире,
what has changed
каковы
around the
результаты
world,
трехлетнего ревью
what
глобального
are the
кодекса,
results of
что
the
происходит
3-year
в
review of the
России
global code, FX global code, what's happening in Russia,
и с этическими кодексами, и
with
влиянием на
code of
финансовые
ethics,
рынки, и с регулированием.
what's their role on financial
Затем
markets,
у нас
we'll look at the latest regulatory
интересные
trends,
панели
and we
и
also have
по
exciting
тому,
panels
как происходит гонка
on
платформ,
the race between platforms,
вендоров от
vendors and platforms are key in this race, and they will share some of the trends that they've been seeing.
Традиционная, вернее, понятно, что у нас будет традиционная панель по деривативам.
We'll have a traditional panel on derivatives.
Так сказать, фокус, естественно, от простых продуктов
The
включается туда.
will move
Электронификация затрагивает и
into
этот сегмент.
that
И
segment,
надеемся, что тоже будет очень интересная сессия.
and we really hope it's going
Дальше
to
уже
be
традиционно у
a
нас
very
сессия по
interesting session.
крипто,
And
по
then
цифровым активам и
we'll have
криптотрейдингу.
a
Несмотря
session
на
on
то, что в России с
crypto
этим есть
trading and
определенные
crypto
проблемы,
assets.
и несмотря
There
на
are
то, что
some issues in Russia in this
вся
area,
эта область, она встречает довольно большой скепсис
and there is
со
a lot
стороны
of skepticism
традиционных финансистов. Я вот каждый
from
год, так сказать,
conventional, orthodox financiers.
себя исчерпает. Нет, она
And every year, I think, well, maybe crypto's run out of steam, and it will no longer be the buzz thing, but it still is. So we'll talk about that, talk about the future,
на которой с нами с Центрального банка будет
and
присутствовать
we'll
Александр
have
Морозов, начальник департамента
Alexander Murazov,
аналитического и
head of
прогнозирования,
research and forecasting from
исследований
Russia's
прогнозирования,
central
и,
bank.
несколько наших ведущих аналитиков, с которыми, я думаю, что все
And I'm sure you know
нашим
him.
макросессиям, который проходит CI Russia
We'll also have regularly sessions, regular sessions in Clubhouse, and he's a guest there. Every week, we discuss the latest in the financial market. And this year, we decided to experiment a little bit. At the end, we'll have the so-called anti-panel. What's the purpose? What's the point? Usually, those who are in the panel and those who are in the audience are divided between kind of a barrier. It's the negative side of this original setup. But we hope that we can bring down those barriers, and we'll give everyone a glass of champagne. We'll just discuss the latest topics, the latest insights you've heard. So I hope you can all join in, and I really hope it's going to become a traditional cocktail party. And this time there'll be no limit to it, and I hope that there'll be enough champagne and chit-chat and networking. And those of you who have just joined us, please download the Slido app. Could you please run the first questionnaire, and let's have a test. I'd like to see who's here with us in the audience and online. So that's a general survey. Who do you represent? A bank, an exchange, an ECN, a broker-dealer, or a non-financial corporate, or a fintech? And again, there are some options below. We can't put all of the options here on the screen. So far we have banks that dominates the audience, dominating the audience. There are also private investors, other and family offices. And again, if you wear several hats, please pick the one that is closest to you. Okay, we'll keep it running for a while in the background. Well, I hope you've all made your choice, and what kind of picture do we have? It's really professional. As a professional audience, we have ECNs, exchanges, we have startups, not many corporates and private investors, but the top share belongs to the vendors that present technology solutions, and the banks are almost a half. And that is a genuine reflection of the professional financial market here in Russia. Those who have the professional expertise, who are bold enough to come to an offline event. Great. Well, let's move into our first session. I'd like to introduce our panelists, and we'll start with an interview with one of our platinum sponsors. I'd like to thank you for your support, LMAX Group. And we have an opportunity to go live to David Mercer, who is CEO of LMAX Group. LMAX Group is one of the leading independent operators, an institutional exchange.
I can, Sergey. How are you? Hello to everyone in Moscow.
Yeah, that's very good that you get connected. So we are very glad to see you here. We have some people here in the room, so it's quite large, and I think like about 100 people already gathered here. The weather is quite cold for October in Moscow, but air is fresh. So let me continue in representing David, who is a Chief Executive Officer of LMAX Group, leading independent operator of institutional exchanges for foreign exchange and cryptocurrency trading, and working with all the major global banks, non-banks, asset managers, and brokers. LMAX Group is widely recognized for industry innovation, its low latency, high-performance proprietary technology, and offering execution services both for FX and crypto. So, David, could you maybe briefly tell us what is your unique position on the market? Because for myself, it's usually the people, of course, specialize in some area. So, how did you decide to go both to FX and crypto? And if you can share maybe a strategic view on the development in those areas, and if they have like a synergy effect, or what do you think about it? So why did you make that decision?
Sorry, Sergey, I've got the Russian translation in my ear, but I think you're sort of asking how did I make the transition from FX into crypto. So look, I think if you look at LMAX Group today, you know, we operate 5 exchanges globally. 4 of them happen to be foreign exchange. One of them is LMAX Digital, our latest exchange that is crypto focused. Our view is that going forward, cryptocurrency specifically, rather than all the wider crypto assets, will be traded on one platform. So for us, it's just it's the same connectivity, it's the same trust, technology, transparency that you'd expect in the FX segment, in the crypto segment. So we're truly trying to create and establish an institutional marketplace across these assets, you know, be them Russian ruble, Mexican peso, or Bitcoin. So, you know, today we have 500 institutions connected to LMAX Digital. Roughly 40% of LMAX Digital customers are FX customers within LMAX Group. So for us, it was a natural extension, and we hope we can provide some sort of institutional infrastructure as these asset classes merge together, which I believe they will do. You know, my message out there is if you're sitting on an FX desk, try and own the crypto space while you're at it, because these things trade much more like Eurodollar than they do Tesla or Microsoft.
And if we are talking about the classical FX, so how it's going on for last, let's say, 12 months or so? What trends do you see?
What we're seeing is a greater drive towards you know, transparency in the marketplace. If you like, we're seeing a lot more interest from algo desks, seeking out best execution, seeking out or being able to prove best execution, you know, across the marketplace. So I think that's a big area. You know, within LMAX Group, we've seen 20% uptick in bank taking within the last year, which is a pretty big increase if you think about how long FX has been established and how long those institutions have been trading FX. I'd love to tell you, doing much more in Russian ruble. What I'd say is that under the surface, we've onboarded 3 or 4 of the major Russian banks. We're working on improving the liquidity, and I hope that Russian ruble can be more important for LMAX Group going forward. Certainly, I think we're in a stronger position today than we were this time last year, and maybe next year I can actually come to Moscow and talk about our significant growth in that space.
Okay, so for last years was a very big process around development of FX Global Code, the 3-year review. Do you have any particular view on that process and results?
I do. Look, I think it was a difficult challenge. It's a difficult challenge for everyone writing the code. I think credit to everyone involved, to Guy DeBell and the team who've put it together. We've seen significant progress in the 3 years. They said they would review it 3 years in. They have done that. And I think we're inching towards a better place. Certainly something that, you will know that we don't believe in last look, and certainly believe it doesn't have a place on public markets. It may have a place in bilateral markets, and I'll leave that to the buy side and the sell side to agree that together. But I think certainly there's more clarity. The last statement from the global code about minimizing hold time and the fact that it should only be used for a price check and a credit check is a significant step forward. Look, we are, I guess you could say we're FX revolutionaries. We'd like it to happen quicker. My personal belief is that, like in every other asset class, last look or this one-way optionality will not exist in foreign exchange within a decade. I certainly wish that had happened quicker, but we're getting towards a better place. And it's a bit tiresome that we keep going on about scandals that are historic, or even some new legal cases that are very, very historic. So my belief is that the FX industry is a much better place in 2021 than it was in 2015. I think you have greater transparency. I think you have greater price discovery. I think the FX market is the most liquid and perhaps the best functioning asset class in the world. So I think the code has contributed towards that. And we look forward to it iterating, be it triannually, to make the FX industry or marketplace a better place in years to come.
And so do you see the central limit order book business model, which is a key point of LMAX Group, that is still has a major role? And you see that the fragmentation of the market is growing, to my opinion. If in the past it was just one venue where the currency traded mainly like EBS, euro dollar, so you go there, cable, you go to Reuters matching. So now it's it looks like the world is in a competition. So the different marketplaces, they compete with each other. Internalization process among the liquidity providers also observe all the floors itself to the largest liquidity providers from primary venues. And that task of price discovery, it's a little bit more complicated to my opinion right now than it used to be. So what is the role of central limit order book, and will it survive for a longer time?
Well, look, I think certainly central limit order books will be the future of foreign exchange. Again, if you look a decade out, partly because of the code, because of the first version of the code, I think actually the FX market took a slightly wrong turn, and that FX trading became more bilateral. But actually bilateral trading makes it difficult to prove best execution to the end client, be that real money or an asset manager or a pension fund. But look, I think, if you're servicing customers today, you have to have an array of liquidity. Depending on what your desired outcome, depending on whether you want to minimize information leakage or whether you simply want to get the best price inside, you'll choose your liquidity. But again, let's take a step back for a second and look at capital markets in general. Public lit markets are the way that you prove efficiency, transparency, and best execution. So they'll always have a place. They'll always have a place in any capital market. Now, in terms of, I have no doubt it's more difficult for someone like yourself today than it was 5 years ago or 10 years ago. But once you have that connectivity, right, once you have that efficiency of price discovery, then your cost of execution only goes down. So for me, like if you look at LMAX Group, you probably never saw my face on a big screen 10 years ago. Now you see it quite a lot. So if central limit order books were truly in decline, then LMAX Group wouldn't be here today. So it might be the behemoths that you talk, the legacy venues you discuss at length, who were the leaders 10 years ago or 15 years ago, will not be the leaders in 5 years' time. Our stated goal is to become the #1 global central limit order book. I believe we're well on track to do that. Our growth rate surpasses everyone else in the market. But just to be clear, we just want to create that efficient utility for the wider FX marketplace. And I believe that central limit order books work well within an ecosystem that also contains bilateral liquidity relationships.
Okay, thank you, David. Next question. It was also mentioned by FX Global Committee, and it's, I think, always with us, the problem of credit lines, settlements, and especially for developing markets. So how, let's say, Russian bank get connectivity to a central limit order book provided by LMAX Group if he doesn't have enough lines? So what is your basic connectivity options from credit line perspective? And by the way, do you think that like development of multilateral netting of settlements similar to CLS will help Russian ruble to grow in trading?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, actually, to anyone in the room, if you have doubts about connectivity, I have Barbara, Roland, and Ilya in the room today, so wander over and have a chat. But look, for me, it's relatively easy today. We've onboarded, as I say, 4 large banks in Russia this year. There's a range of prime brokers or clearers available. I think actually the blockage in Russian ruble has been eased somewhat over the last couple of years. So yourself from your own organization, it's relatively simple to connect. There are a range of options. We're agnostic in terms of the clearer you choose or the direct connection you choose or whether you choose a third party. So it's relatively trivial to connect to LMAX Exchange today, and we look forward to welcoming more Russian customers going forward.
And so if we're talking about your crypto trading, LMAX digital leg, so one of the key problems of environment and crypto space is to have a safety which is enough for institutions. And so in your platform, so what are your main clients who trade crypto on LMAX exchange? Is it fully institutional, or you have retail customers? And so how do you solve this problem, I mean, with a credit on in cryptocurrency area?
Yeah, look, that's a great question. And in fact, I think that one word is the key blocker to mass institutional adoption of crypto today. The credit mechanisms aren't there today. We need more banks to enter the space to disintermediate that credit. At the moment, it's effectively principal to principal. And in some cases, in LMAX Digital, we act as principal today on crypto trades, whereas we do not within the FX environment. But so for that reason, what you're seeing today within LMAX Digital is that large adoption from what you'd call maybe the non-banks, the proprietary trading firms in London, New York, Chicago, Amsterdam, and Singapore. So that's the concentration of our client base today. They're able to move more quickly. They're able to accept more credit risk. But the banks are still dealing with that credit intermediation issue. What I would say is that in 2021 versus 2018, we have about a third of our banks now taking LMAX digital market data. So they're now plugging that in. By the way, it's the same fixed API you use for your FX market data, so it's trivial for anyone to get that price feed. So they now have the price discovery. Now they just are waiting for internal and external approvals in order to start trading the asset. But at the moment, it's primarily a fund-driven, prop trading firm-driven market. At LMAX Digital, we don't do retail at all, but we do face some of the largest crypto retail brokers as customers, as we would do in foreign exchange. You know, a lot of the world's largest FX brokers are also clients of LMAX Group. So it's happening slowly. For true institutional adoption, we need the ABC of crypto to come to play. We need adoption and access. We need better banking, and we need that credit intermediation that I've just discussed.
Okay, thank you, David, for this interview. Any final words from you to our audience? Because we need a close session.
I'm just listening. I just have to listen to your translator every time. Unfortunately, my Russian is not so good. But no, look, I think it's a very exciting time ahead of us for both FX and crypto. Certainly, you know, the investment earlier on this year was all about providing solutions within both these great FX marketplaces. It's a market infrastructure play for us. We're here for the long term. We hope to try and create efficient market in both FX and crypto. And I would say that you should expect within a few years that both of these assets will trade on one exchange, on one central limit order book together. Most of my customers now simply treat Bitcoin USD as the 82nd currency pair that LMAX Group offers. And I think going forward, we'd like to offer that globally. But of course, we need local legislation in Russia and around the globe to come into play, to make it easy for everyone to access it. So I look forward to the future. And as I said to you before, Sergey, I look forward to sitting there in person with you next year and not having to listen to the feedback via a black box on my table. So have a great show, and good morning, good afternoon to everyone in Moscow.
Thank you, David.